Good to have you with us on this Tuesday edition. Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Kentucky and Oregon vote tonight. Actually voting right now. Too close to call in Kentucky. I think Bernie Sanders is going to win. Oregon will have coverage tonight on RT, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Big story here. The United States Senate passed a bill today allowing the family members of the victims of 9/11 to sue Saudi Arabia. The name of the bill, Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act. And it was sponsored by New York Senator Chuck Schumer and Texas Senator John Cornyn, bipartisan. It got enough votes. Schumer thinks he's going to have enough for a veto override. The president has said that he is not going to sign it. Paul Ryan's got cold feet on it in the House, but this is certainly a measurable news experience when it comes to fighting terrorism in this country and holding people responsible for what happened on 9/11. The Senate doing this vote today. Earlier today, I spoke with RT correspondent Reema Hamdieh, and she had these thoughts on the Senate passing this bill. Reema, this vote by the United States Senate, what does it mean to the victims' families of 9/11?
It does allow them to sue members of the Saudi government, Saudis, in U.S. courts. That's exactly what it says. The bill itself does not say Saudi Arabia. It says justice for victims of sponsors of terrorism. But however, everybody believes, especially because of the 28 pages that have not been revealed, that this specifically targets Saudi Arabia and targets the Saudis. So basically, the Senate passed this law. We're yet to hear from the House, but a vote has not been scheduled there. We did hear from Paul Ryan in April, last April, that he does not back this legislation, and so we heard from the White House today that said, in light of the concerns that this administration had cited, most likely this president is not going to approve this legislation.
Do we know where Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump stand on this issue?
I don't think we do have
a good handle on that as of yet. This is rather premature. All right. Does this explain the tensions between the Saudis and the United States in recent months because they knew this vote was coming?
Absolutely. And we saw how the relations were very tense between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia over the past few months. We also saw how Saudi Arabia was threatening to sell $750 billion worth of its assets in the U.S. We also saw how the Treasury just released or published the debt that the Saudi Arabia holds, and that's over $116 billion of U.S. debt. We know that this probably has a lot of implications in the future. We don't know what the Saudis will do in light of this vote, but we also know that this vote is not yet, or this legislation is not yet, a law until the House and Obama approves it.
All right, Reema, thank you. The Saudis are now saying that they will extract billions of dollars out of the U.S. economy, and certainly it underscores the tensions that have taken place in recent months between the United States and Saudi Arabia. It will be a plethora of legal action to follow in the coming months, and also foreign policy will be on the front page for a long time because of this Senate ruling. The president's probably just trying to keep the peace. You would think that Saudi Arabia would go nuts over this. We will see. When we come back, John Nichols, Washington correspondent of The Nation, on the big votes tonight in Kentucky and Oregon. That's next. Stay with us.
Hey folks, you've heard me talk about Bio Green Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegothead.com, or go to biogreenclean.com, www.biogreenclean, and order today.
It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems.
Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Good to have you back with us on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Only registered Democrats can vote in the Oregon primary. But voting in the state of Oregon has been taking place for over a month. And they're expecting a tremendous turnout, and Bernie Sanders is expected to win that. He drew 28,000 people in Portland, Oregon, in one of his first visits on the campaign trail. Enthusiasm there is very high, and that, of course, is where he has to score. This morning on CNN, Jeff Weaver talked, he's the campaign manager of Bernie Sanders, had this to say.
Well, I would say that we are helping Hillary Clinton, as a matter of fact, assuming that she's the nominee. And I think that Hillary Clinton is helping Bernie Sanders, assuming that he's the nominee. You know, as soon as this Democratic primary process is over, we're not going to hear any more talk about the minimum wage. We're not going to hear any more talk about making college affordable or providing health care to everybody. It's going to be a mudslinging contest. The Trump people, the Republican Party, all their super PACs are going to engage in character assassination no matter who the nominee is. And that's what's going to be focused on. It's unfortunate. But as long as there's a Democratic primary process going on, people are talking about issues that are important not only to Democrats but to Americans as a whole.
For more on that, let's turn to Washington correspondent of The Nation, John Nichols, joins us. John, good to have you with us.
Great to be with you, Ed.
Interesting take by Weaver, positioning back, in a sense, to the Clinton people who were saying that Bernie's hurting their campaign and they want to turn to the general. And, oh, by the way, they're running ads saying that she's the presumptive nominee. I think he makes a profound point that the issues that they are clamoring over right now are going to fall by the wayside, and it will be personality mudslinging. We've already seen that from the Trump camp. What do you make of this competition and what Weaver's thoughts were?
I thought Weaver's observation is an important one. It doesn't have to be what he predicts, no matter who the Democratic nominee is, if the Democratic nominee chooses to run on bold positions. But if the Democratic nominee runs a soft campaign, kind of aiming toward the center, then you're guaranteed it will be only about personalities, scandals, old stories, news stories, whatever.
And that could wear the vote in a big way. A lot of people could lose enthusiasm on that.
Well, Ed, this is the heart of the matter. And Trump knows this. I don't think people spend enough time thinking about Trump as a political player because he's new to the game, but he's shown skills that people should understand. He outwitted the whole of the Republican establishment. That's a pretty good skill. Now he's going into a November race. What does he know? He knows that he has to lower his opponent's approval rating down to where he's at, right? So, of course, he will be very, very negative. And the important thing to understand about that is the counter to Trump's negatives is not to be as negative as he is, because nobody's going to be as good at it. Nobody's as good at making up the nicknames and all that stuff. The counter to him is a strong set of stands on the issues. And I think that's what Weaver's trying to get to. Again, Jeff Weaver's obviously arguing for Bernie Sanders.
Sure, yeah.
But no matter who the nominee is, I promise you this. The Republicans will largely unite behind Trump. The polling data shows it's already happening. Trump is doing very, very well. Here's an interesting fact for you, Ed. It was in a recent Politico piece, a good piece. Trump is doing better with casual Republican voters than core Republican voters, right? So if we assume that core Republican voters, at the end of the day, they're going to stick with their party because they want to, they want all the power that extends from it in the House and Senate. Then you say, yeah, but what about the casual voters? Well, those folks Trump does really well with. The folks who don't always vote in every election, but they vote in presidential elections. So he is very likely to unite a large portion of the Republican base. The challenge for the Democrats is not to fight for those scattering Republican votes. The challenge for the Democrats is to go to a place that ignites the Democratic base, which is larger, Ed. They have more people to draw in, but if they don't excite those people, they're not going to beat Trump.
Okay. Hillary Clinton on the campaign trail. A couple of things have come out. Healthcare in Kentucky, a big story because former Governor Steve Beshear did what many people think is an exemplary job of implementing Obamacare and getting more people in the state of Kentucky some healthcare coverage. She, of course, is now pointing that out on the campaign trail, pointing out the fact that the Republican governor is trying to ditch it. Here it is.
And your governor did such a great job, and your current governor is trying to undo it all. Undo it all. Oh, yes, it is, ma'am. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now, you are entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts.
You know, those states, West Virginia, Kentucky, they're tough sledding for the Democrats, whether it's either Hillary Clinton or Bernie, for that matter. But the fact is that this push to get rid of health care and Obamacare is going to evolve as one of the big things Trump is going to throw out there. I think she handled that extremely well. The fact is, and I spoke with one congressman on the airplane the other day, Kevin Kramer from North Dakota. I says, why did you guys vote so many times in the House to get rid of Obamacare when you had nothing to replace it with? And he told me, he says, we can't even get together on a health care plan. I mean, it's just anything to stop a progressive agenda. That's what it comes down to. But how do you think, John, the Democrats play health care moving into this general election, no matter who the nominee is?
Sure. Look, in a way, you've got a hybrid of Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders on this one, and I think that's the way you play it. I happen to favor single-payer Medicare for all health care. I think that's the right answer.
That's where most Democrats are, yeah. Where most of the country is, actually.
I think it's a good sell, but I also know the challenges of getting there. I did not like during the primary campaign. I have not liked as Hillary Clinton has said, well, we shouldn't even be talking about that. We got to focus in on just what we've got. No, that's not the right answer. There are a lot of people who are dissatisfied with health care as it stands right now. So your answer is this. Treat Obamacare as the absolute floor, the base that we have to defend,
build on
that we have to expand. And then say, as President of the United States, I will never, ever be satisfied if there's a single person who goes bankrupt because they're sick.
Yeah.
There's a single person
I just don't. I don't think Trump can win on this with the American people because everybody's rates are going to go up. They went up double digit for 8 years under Bush. We've seen exorbitant increases in the past. No one said that the rates weren't going to go up. They're always going to go up somewhat. But the fact is more people are covered and they don't have a plan to get that done. So I think that's something that they can win on. But in the crowd of what she was pushing back on, obviously they're eating up the bullet points. Obamacare's got to go. It costs too much. And that's the play. Now, another thing that the Clinton camp is pushing, and she has on the stump, that Bill Clinton's going to be involved in the economy. That makes me a little nervous. I don't want the 90s. I want the future. And the 90s gave us NAFTA. It gutted 500,000 jobs. Clinton was on an Asian trip a couple of years ago and told people in the media that he was in favor of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So I don't know how you can, and she has said she wants to put him in charge of the economy. This is Bernie Sanders' reaction in Puerto Rico.
Put Bill Clinton in charge of the economy. Well, that's her judgment. My judgment is that if elected president, we're going to put people in charge of the economy who do not come from Wall Street, who understand that we've got to reverse the decline of the American middle class. People who understand that we have got to address in a very forceful way the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality. That we've got to create millions of jobs, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, and raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour.
Okay, but the bottom line here is that they got to be concerned about trade. And it would seem to me that if the Clintons are going to keep pushing this thing that Bill's going to be involved with economic decisions, isn't he going to have to come out on TPP and give us a definite position where he is? Your thoughts, John?
I don't want Bill Clinton to have to abandon the principles and the ideals that he has embraced throughout his career. And so I don't want him in charge of the economy, because the principles and the ideals that Bill Clinton has embraced as regards trade, and I think he's sincere on it. I just don't want to deny that, this has been something he's been on for 20 some years. The principles he's embraced on trade are not the principles I agree with. And I don't think they are the principles now that most Americans agree with. He proposed an ideal, a fantasy, that you could, kind of just eliminate the barriers on trade and, smooth it all out, and everybody would rise together. That hasn't been the case.
Yeah.
Our trade policies have been a mess for the United States. They've also been a mess for a lot of the countries we've traded with. They have not been good for the environment. They have not been good for building a sustainable or functional global economy. They've not been good for human rights. They have not been good for democracy.
Yeah.
And so, at a fundamental level, I think that Bill Clinton, took a set of stands as a relatively young man. I don't think the stands that he took were the right ones. I didn't think it at the time, and I don't to this day.
John Nichols.
I believe America's moved toward a point of being much more critical of those positions.
All right. How do you call West Virginia? How do you call Kentucky and Oregon tonight?
I think Kentucky has a really strong courthouse Democratic base, and I think that's going to play well for Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. I do think there's a lot of dedicated old school Democrats who are likely to be excited by her promise to rebuild the party. But I think it'll be a close race. And watch those eastern Kentucky counties. There's still a lot of Democrats in that coal country of eastern Kentucky. If it's relatively even in the Louisville and Lexington area, then Sanders could win it based on those coal country Democrats. But if Clinton gets a big lead out of some of the bigger cities, which I think is possible, then I think the state likely goes to her.
And Oregon?
Oregon should be natural Sanders country. Yeah. There have been some polls that showed Hillary Clinton ahead out there. And, I'll just say it very simply. If Bernie Sanders doesn't win Oregon, it gets a lot harder for him.
There's no question.
Because Oregon is precisely the sort of state that he has won up to this point. So I'm going to put it in his column. But, I will say bluntly that both of these races are important tonight.
Good to have you with us, John. Always, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thanks, my friend.
You bet. John Nichols, Washington correspondent of The Nation magazine. Mark Zuckerberg, who's the CEO of Facebook, is going to be meeting with a host of conservatives who are concerned about the squashing of conservative news and media stories and conservative principles on Facebook. Matt Schlapp of the Conservative Union. I normally don't read from any press releases, but this one I found very interesting. Schlapp went right at it. He was invited to this meeting with Mark Zuckerberg, and he turned it down because he thinks it's going to be nothing but a photo op. And he wrote that the Facebook staff has admitted to suppressing content about CPAC. That CPAC content egregiously underperforms on Facebook compared to Twitter and other platforms by factors of 10. He also wrote that Facebook trending news chief Tom Stocky is a maxed out donor of Hillary Clinton. And of the 1,000 political donations from Facebook employees, 80% have gone to liberals. And when I read that, I thought, he has a point. We'll cover it tonight on the News with Ed on RT America, 8 p.m. Eastern. This is Ed Schultz News and Commentary. We're back tomorrow. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you this production. We're back tomorrow.